It's let's learn Japanese from small talk.
Oh, okay.
So
Is it
after
YouTube or podcast?
podcast, yeah.
Mm.
So after I listen to Azumi's podcast, I listen to Let's Learn Japanese from Small Talk. And Let's Learn Japanese from Small Talk is really good. It's two girls from Japan. There's Mizuho from Tokyo, and then there's Kayuko. And Kayuko is from Oita. I live in Oita.
Oh.
Yeah. So Mizuho and Kayuko both studied they studied in England. And when they were in England, they decided to make a Japanese gakusha podcast.
学習者 podcast, okay.
Yeah. So I think it's really just a fun, easy thing to listen to, and I think it's good for people at N3 level.
N3.
Oh yeah, here's the picture. Yeah, there they are. So there's Mizuho and Kayuko, and they're very fun to listen to. They're very funny, and they do a good job at speaking at a level that's easy to understand. And at the end of every episode, they repeat their vocabulary that they've used from that episode.
Nice.
And then I aside from Let's Learn Japanese from Small Talk, I've been watching other YouTube channels.
Yep.
Like Miku Real Japanese. And Miku, she breaks down sentences and vocabulary points, and I think it's pretty easy to understand.
Is
I've
she
also
a
done
teacher?
Yes, she lived in Spain and Mexico, and she taught Japanese
I see.
in Spain and Mexico, and she also speaks English. So she speaks Spanish, English, and she's Japanese. And I think she's fun, and I've learned some cool grammar from her. She also has a podcast. It's the same name, so I recommend that podcast. I also like Japanese Ammo with Misa.
Oh, yeah.
And Misa is a Japanese teacher, and she lives in Japan. And she kind of does similar videos to Miku. But I think Misa's videos are a lot longer, and they're more detailed.
Oh, okay. Miku and Misa, both they are creating videos. Okay.
That's right. After that, there's Cure Dolly, organic Japanese with Cure Dolly.
What is this?
Okay, so this is interesting. This is very interesting. I found this YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And the person that makes it, they don't show their face. They use this avatar.
Yeah.
I don't know why. And they also they changed their voice.
Okay.
And honestly, when I first listened to it, I was a little like off put. I thought it was weird.
Yeah, right.
But the content is really good. The content is really good.
What's good?
And so this person is not Japanese. This person is foreign. And they have learned Japanese to a very high level. They sound like they're from England or something. I don't know. But they've learned Japanese to a very high level, and they kind of teach you Japanese. So Cure Dolly doesn't like textbooks like Genki.
Okay.
And I think something that I learned from Cure Dolly that I have kept with me is the way textbooks teach things sometimes isn't good. For example, watashi wa paka desu is kind of different from watashi ga paka desu.
Right.
There's a subtle difference. And a lot of times, I think the example that Kirdali used was if you go to a restaurant and if you order eel, like unagi, so, you might say unagi desu or watashi wa unagi desu, and that does not mean I am an eel. It doesn't mean that.
Right.
It means watashi wa is kind of the topic marker. So wa is a topic marker. So watashi wa unagi desu kind of means, as for me, I'll eat the eel tonight. So if you were to do the whole sentence, one thing Kirdali taught me is that every Japanese sentence has a ga, but sometimes you just don't say the ga because the ga marks the subject, and every sentence has a subject. In English, we have to say the subject. I can't just go up to somebody and say, "Am Parker." That sounds weird. I have to say, "I am Parker."
I'm Parker.
Yeah, I can't just say, "Am Parker." You have to have the subject. I am Parker. In Japanese, you don't need the subject. It's perfectly grammatical to say "Parker desu." You don't have to say "Watashi ga Parker desu."
Correct. Yep.
So that ga marks the subject, but that ga isn't always there. And that's something that I learned from Kirdali. And Kirdali actually has a really good book that I would recommend. And I think it's called Unlocking Japanese.
Oh, okay. Kirdali published a book.
Yes, she did. And this book taught me the difference between ga and wa.
Okay.
And it also taught me other things. And Kirdali really breaks down the particles of Japanese.
Oh, yeah.
Ga, wa, o, de, ni. She kind of says that each of those particles kind of makes a chunk of a sentence, and those chunks of the sentences are what build the Japanese language.
I see. Cool.
So if you listen to a Japanese person speak, they oftentimes kind of pause after a particle. And if you listen for that, you can kind of understand what they're saying. Like, watashi ga America de hatarakimashite. And just like those dun, dun, dun. That kind of gives you a big hint about what the person is saying. And so I think Kirdali is really good if you want to get used to particles, and if you want to study the structure of a sentence.
Gotcha.
But it's strange. It's weird. I don't know why they use an avatar, but you have to get used to that. Once you get used to that, it's nice. And actually, I think they stopped making videos because they have a health problem, and that's sad. I hope they make more videos soon.
Oh, wait. So currently they are not publishing their videos?
No, she made an announcement last year that they're going to take a break because they're dealing with a health problem.
Ooh, okay, I see.
But if you read it, she says she's an android. She says, "Organic Japanese android sensei."
Yeah.
So when she made the video, she said, "I'm having some technical difficulties. My hardware is malfunctioning. I need to take a break."
Okay, I like that humor.
Yeah, it's cute.
Oh, right.
So yeah, and aside from that, there's also Sayori saying.
What is that?
That's another YouTube channel by a Japanese girl. She lives in Shikoku, not too far from Oita.
Right.
And she makes YouTube videos and a podcast. And I like Sayuri saying because her content is really short. It's like a lot of the times 5 to 10 minutes. And I think it's just good for listening practice. She talks naturally. She talks at a natural pace using she doesn't really she talks clearly, but she doesn't make her Japanese too simple to understand. So I think it's for a higher level.
Like
And her
NA3 to
in three.
okay.
And I think it's just good for listening practice. And if you watch her YouTube videos, she does a really good job at taking notes, kind of like you do with your little postcards. She does that too. It's pretty useful. And lastly, as far as YouTube content, I think another good thing for people learning Japanese to do is to watch and consume content for Japanese people learning their language. For example, I'm a native English speaker, so I like to watch videos of people, Japanese people teaching English, because I already know English, so just hearing people teach my own language in Japanese is good listening renshu. And Atsueigo is an excellent channel. I think he's got tons of videos, and all of them he's teaching English, and I already know English, so it's great. I'm also reading a book right now about learning English, but it's written in Japanese, so it's just really fun.
Okay, so he explained English by Japanese language. That's why you partially can understand the content he's going to speak.
Yes.
Naturally. Yes. Then you can focus on Japanese and how it will be articulated. Okay.
That's exactly right. And he oftentimes has guests on, and they'll talk about study. And another thing that's really important is to learn how to learn a language.
Wait.
And that's why.
What important things is how to learn language.
Learn how to learn a language. Okay. So I think watching things like Atsueigo is really useful for learning your own target language. And Maths versus Japan talks a lot about language learning. So if you want to get some insight into learning a language, not just Japanese, I would recommend Math versus Japan, and I would also recommend watching videos teaching your own language in another language. So if you're learning Spanish, watch a person teaching English in Spanish. Or if you're a Japanese person learning English, watch people teaching English in Japanese, like Japanese Ammo with Misa or Miku's Real Japanese.